All right, I just want to blab away. I like talking about history. But this is how I see things. And, anybody out there, correct me if I'm wrong, right? Because what I'm talking about is more the legal history of the Romans rather than the wars and all the drama and the stuff. Sociological history, you could say. Um, because we could see a lot of the toxic modern polemics within how history is discussed, right? Because let's take Rome, okay? So, and again, so people out there, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm totally interested in what the reality was on a legal and sociological basis. But as far as I understand things, you have um, you have Rome, right? Rome starts up, and it conquers the Latin peoples of Italy, right? Um, and this in itself is pretty interesting, right? Because it lays a framework, I think, for what I'm about to discuss. But because you basically had a bunch of Latin city-states, um, and I mean, what you're going to have is you're going to have aristocrats in each city-state, and they're going to be doing their thing to uh, extract wealth without work, right? As aristocrats do. But so they're gonna like the system, but they're not gonna like Rome coming in and telling them what to do, right? Because Rome's gonna come in and, as far as I understand it, uh, enforce a enforce more trade. I hate to use the term free markets because it's just people don't understand them, right? Like you could bring all pharmaceutical costs down if you had free markets, right? Rather than monopolies or yeah. I mean, the patent laws are just monopoly laws in disguise, but whatever. Um, but I think that's what's going to happen. But that's where I want to. That's the question I have. I mean, it's interesting about the Latins, but once Rome took charge of the Latins, as far as I understand it, that's exactly what the Romans did. Because if you look at like I was watching this video on Asian India, and like I think the current political leaders of India, I think I think one of the things that they were talking about, this was the video I think I was watching, it was talking about the politics there. And, but their argument apparently is that if you want to bring goods from one part of India to another, you have to pass through all these, different uh, tariffs, right? And you have to do all this paperwork, and just it's just so difficult to move goods from one part of India to another. And they wanted to free this up, and so I mean, this is basically the world before the Latin rule. This is the Italian. If you're born in one part of Italy, then unless you're an aristocrat, you're going to be in that part of Italy from your birth till your death. Um, so, like in this environment, and regardless of the actual history, like what I'm about to do, is something that I think a lot of historians like to do as well. That's just the sociological and legal histories and stuff, rather than all these fantastical uh, histories. But what I want to do, is I think very important because it exposes language, and it exposes how language can be used. I mean, really, nationalism has always been propaganda from war profiteers, right? Um, it's a way nationalism is a way to pump up war hysteria. But anyways, so like let's say you're in a city state in that just you're in an Italian city state that just got conquered by the Romans. And let us say that you are like let's say you're a leather craftsman, right? And I mean, what is the world before the Romans, and what is the world after the Romans? And as far as I understand it, the world before the Romans, as a leather craftsman in an Italian city-state, you're going to be really restricted by your leaders, in where you get to sell, how much you get to sell, who gets to sell. There's I mean, and of course they're going to be taking a lot of the profits because they don't know how to make leather, and no. But the world after the Romans is that you can now go anywhere in Italy, right? And so, like, if you go to the history books and you see, oh, Rome conquers this Italian city-state, like in Apulia, and the Apulians they're different than the Latins, they're a different tribe than the Latins. And it's like if you're an Apulian leather worker in these circumstances, you're going to be fucking happy. I mean, even if you're a peasant, it's like, you might be able to one day travel, or your kids might be able to one day travel to the Etruscans, and you'll be able to even speak to them, if you know how to speak Latin. So I mean, in that aspect, this Apulian man is really happy that this corruption is now freeing the people, or that this corruption is now at an end, and he's now more free. I mean, the fact of the matter is yeah, I know the Apulians were different, but but there was a lot of people out there that they became Latin because they were sick of the petty corruptions within their tribe, and the Latins were really opening things up, I think. Now, of course, I don't believe that if this did happen, it was done under utopian circumstances. That's why the specifics would be really interesting. There's I'm a cynic, I guess, and but at the same time, the people of the Mediterranean were cynics about the Romans, right? They would say, oh, they have to find an excuse to go to war, and it's like, no, as far as I understand it, they were It was about the law. It was about how human beings treat each other. And ultimately, it was about the treaty, you know. And if you're a treaty breaker, then you're an enemy. You're an enemy. You're a barbarian. Like that's the distinction between barbarian. Now, as the Roman world became more corrupt, of course, that the word barbarian is going to change. Um, Ironically, it could change. The Romans could strap the word barbarian onto a group that's acting more like their ancestors in a more just way within their own tribe. But I don't know if that ever happened. But it's just you see this transformation of language. Like if you go to law, right? I think modern law would say that justice is about the individual. It's not about the group. And I mean, the fact of the matter is that the Apulians wanted to not be Apulian anymore, and they wanted to be Latin. Like this was like the Germans. German warlords conquered Latin countries, and they gave up their Germanic languages. Because it's just. I mean, there was something. I think to the rise that goes much deeper than just winning military battles. Because I mean, and I think there's people love to like Hannibal, but I mean Hannibal was was really the Latinization of Italy. It's like before Hannibal, it's like Latin was spreading, but Latin was just because the Romans would respect other people's languages and borders. Unless you're a treaty breaker, then you'd lose some of your lands. As far as I understand it, and again, of course, there's probably gonna be corruptions and stuff, and after like it makes sense why the Greeks would so oppose the Romans. It's because the Greeks want to control the marketplace, right? But yeah, I think the corruption of the Romans began with the first conqueror of the Greek peoples after the Second Punic War. One of the first conquerors, he was just this corrupt Roman that got himself appointed rather than selected under the proper procedures to head into Greece, right? And they weren't going to leave that up to the gods, right? And so you start to see this corruption. That starts to happen. But anyways, but you can really see language in all this, because to see it in terms of Romans versus Apulians is to see it in a false light. It's totally to see it in a false light. It's to characterize the tribe as a hive mind of one. I mean, history is about the individual, and I think the true history of any tribe would be a legal history. Like, who cares about the rhetoric a tribe has of itself? Like, why would you trust that? I think the real judgment of a tribe is their laws. What are their laws? If their laws are corrupt, then they're corrupt, right? Um, la, 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 la. I mean, one of the things that irritates me is it's like during the times of Julius Caesar, the senators had become just super corrupt and super power hungry, right? But these leaders really hid behind a lot of pageantry, and but they would argue for the republic, right? And you have like a man Cicero. Ooh, that guy is a creep. He's a total creep because I mean, he has just these grandiose, beautiful speeches, right? But what does he do rather than what does he say? Because what he does is he gets in closed door rooms with other people, smoky closed door rooms, and he plans out the future of Rome, and these others do too. They also order assassinations. Like, Cicero's a disgusting man, and his actions betray. Like, he doesn't believe in a republic. He believes in that, right? He believes in control through manipulation. I mean, these guys were corrupt, but they were arguing for the republic, right? They were arguing for the republic. Yeah, and they were just getting into polemics that hide the reality. They were a false freedom, totally. A betrayal of, like, they were now that, like, you talk about those corrupt Apulian leaders, right? And Latin rule was really this an imposition of a system that opens things up more, and that are opposed to corrupt influences within a tribe. And again, I could be totally wrong on all this, but it'd be interesting to know more specifics on all this. Like how, like, let's put a leather trades craftsman in any place in Italy, and what would be different for this guy? But I mean, history, you could also just say, is really about the individual too, just like you would with legal stuff. I mean, if you characterize it that the Romans defeated the Pulians, like, then you're not going to see the reality, right? I mean, they say that the Gaulish entry into Italy was because of this Etruscan man, and he was getting abused by the people of his city. Like, he was the black sheep, and being treated like the black sheep, and he got fed up, and he's like, "Fuck these Etruscans!" Like, even though he's an Etruscan, he's like, "Fuck these Etruscans." And so he heads into Gaul, and he starts to make wine for them, right? And they start to get drunk off all this wine, and then he's like, "Hey, there's tons of wine in Etrusca. Go get her." Right? So, I mean, to talk about the tribe as an individual is just false, I think.